evening, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Cambodia Global Dialogue of Southeast Asia TV. Tonight we'll be talking about a topic that will affect the whole country, which is about the rice sector. And we have the pleasure to welcome once again for the second time Dr. Kalyan, who appeared a few months ago in our show with reference to the silk sector. Bang Kalyan, welcome to the show once again.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, last time we talked about agriculture, but more focused on the silk. And by the way, how the silk going? I understand Angelina Jolie Foundation is interested to support your silk.
Yeah, it is really a good news.
Yes.
Yesterday that I heard the contact from the manager of the foundation.
Yes.
And showing they are interested in the silviculture. So I think this is very good news for us.
That's great. That's great. I mean, that's one sector that I think will affect in a positive way a lot of the Cambodian, particularly the women who are weaving. But today I really want to touch something that will affect a much larger mass of our society. You're talking about 8 or 9 million Cambodians who will be affected, which is the rice sector. Last August, in fact, it's almost 1 year that His Excellencies and like Prime Minister Hun Sen have launched the rice policy. We are a year into the policy already, and one thing I'm quite pleased that I see a lot of bubbling, a lot of effervescence, a lot of movement in the rice sector. For example, just to give you an idea, last year we export about 60,000 metric ton, right? The first 5 months of this year, we exceed that already.
Sure.
So it means that, you know, we're doing good. You sort of agree with me because we've been working on that. But statistically before, we start pretty much a very low base, right?
Sure, sure. Exactly, there's a lot of response after the policy has been launched last year,
Yes.
which is in August 2010.
Yeah.
After that, a lot of actors in the rice sector has responded to the policies.
How much in 2008? I mean, I forgot the statistic, but it's quite low, am I understanding?
According to the statistics, the average up to 2008.
Up to 2008.
Yeah, up to 2008, the average per year is about 6,000 tons.
6,000?
Sorry, 6,000.
6,000 ton. And last year, when after we launched the rice policy, we did 60,000, right?
Exactly.
10 times.
That's right.
This year, just the first 5 months, we exceed last year total already.
Absolutely, absolutely. I heard also some projection by experts that perhaps this year, 2011, would be around 170,000. So this is expectation by experts.
I think it's quite reasonable because, you know, 1 year and a half into the policy, many investment has been put in, right?
Sure,
Let's face it, we receive a lot of trade delegation, a lot of investment delegation. So 170,000 is, I think, is doable. But to me, I want to throw the challenge, and this is where I really want to discuss today, is more on the future. Because the government have set a target that in 2015, which is 4 years from now, we aim to have 1 million metric ton of rice export. So if you say that this year we project about that reasonably we could do 170,000, we are still short of 825,000. That's a lot of rice to mill and to export.
Exactly. After the good response at initial stage, which is only 1 year from now.
Yes.
So it was only 1 year.
Yeah.
So I think there's a good response.
Yeah.
And it is a good policies of the government that after launching the policies, like in any management system, even the private sector or official or government sector, after policies, we have to have a system of monitoring.
Okay.
I think, yes, maybe it is early to say because it's 2015, it's far from now, right? But at least this response in the first year was tremendous, was very good. But the government has to know where we stand and how we go from here.
Well, I think that's why the government now is launching a strategic review of the rice export policy. And you and I have the pleasure to be advising the task force, right?
Yes.
So this is quite an honor. But foremost, I think the challenge is multifold. I don't think, to be fair, that it's only the responsibility of government.
Right.
I think it's also the responsibility of the private sector who are exporting, as well as the responsibility of the development partner. But in my view, I think they see the rice policy as driving a unified front. You know, how to attack poverty, how to attack through production, right? So what's your, let me ask you on the perspective of the development partner. Do you see they're coming on board?
Sure. Just let me backtrack a bit on this rice sector.
Yes.
The rice sector, you know, as you know very well, our country since Angkor Wat time, yeah? We always based on rice.
Yeah.
So rice is not something new to us.
Yes.
But because of stabilities, because of new development in our countries, because of good leadership and governance in our countries, we start to have surplus.
Okay.
I think perhaps it's maybe one of the few times in our histories that we have this this surplus.
Yes.
Right. So before we think only about our stomach.
Yes. Yes.
Now we have surplus.
In the 60s, we did have surplus. No?
There's some, but not kind of continuous way,
Yes.
not a sustainable kind
Yes,
of
yes.
projection,
Yes.
right? But this now we have a surplus.
Yes.
Now we have to think smart, you know, how to take care of this surplus.
Yes.
So we have to link to
Yes.
the world, to the globalized world,
Yes.
so how to link to that. But before going into your questions regarding the prospect of the rice sector, I think we have to know where we stand, right? And the government has set clearly the policies.
Yes.
And now we have to kind of follow up.
Yes.
Rice sector is complex. It's different from the sector you just asked me about the sericulture.
Yeah,
Sericulture
much
is
simpler.
Much simpler. This is only one small subsector, but rice sector is very complex. It across the board, right?
Across the board.
From the farmers
Yes. Yes.
to millers to transporters.
Yes.
To bankers,
Yes.
right? To
It's a whole value chain.
It's a whole
you're
value
saying,
chain.
Yeah.
A whole
Yes,
value chain.
Yeah.
So we had to tackle along the value chain many issues, many problems.
Yes.
But because it is complex, it will take time to handle. But everyone has to be on board.
Yes.
Everyone have to involve, right? In solving, for example, farmer have to know what is their role, and banker what is their role, and exporter what is their role,
Yes.
and the government also as a policymaker what is the role.
Yes.
So everybody has its role to play.
Yes. So to me, if I look along the rice value chain, you have first the production, which is the farming, right, is one cluster. Then you have the collection, the milling facility, the packaging, and then the export, right? So that's a linear, sort of like value chain progression.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there are parallel progression where you, along the way, there's always the banker that is involved or not involved, and that's a problem that the banker up to now are not that involved in the rice production because they see it's a lot of risk. But you and I are also sitting in one small working group to establish a credit sharing scheme, right, that the government's going to come up with some way to introduce some cash injection to help that. So things like this, that it's very complex because you have the linear progression, production, fast station, export, and then you have the cross-cutting where you have the banking, but then you have the other, which is technical knowledge, harvesting technique, fertilizer, for example. As an economist focusing on agriculture specialty, what's your view first? Let's talk first about the upstream, right, which is the production. What are the issues you think? Seed-wise, fertilizer, irrigation, that sort of thing. What's your view? What is the challenge?
I think, yes, it's right to go along the value chain.
Yes.
We go from production side.
Yes, yes.
It's kind of chicken and egg situation. From the farmer point of view, if there's no market, they ask, why do I need to produce?
Yes,
right?
yes.
So this is a problem. So now we have to tackle all the value chain. But now let's assume that we are doing right now, right, the whole value chain.
Yes.
But let's come back to the farmer. So at the farmer side, first of all, the way I see the problem in Cambodia is, first of all, water. What is key to productions?
Yes.
Without water, you could not talk too much about technologies, input, fertilizer, and so on and so forth. This is one problem. So we have to have a very good management of water resources. Just to give you an example, Cambodia, perhaps in general, we call cropping system. Meaning how many times per year can you crop? In Cambodia, perhaps hardly 1 or 1.5. because
hardly.
hardly. In a rainy season, they do only in a rainy season.
Yes.
In a dry season, they do in dry season.
Yeah.
But in Vietnam, Mekong Delta,
Yeah.
I like to point out, they could do 3.5 times per year.
But
3.5 times.
in the area bordering with Vietnam, they're doing that now, right? At least two crop, right?
Yeah.
In Cri Vung, in Pei Vang,
Right.
for example.
It is improving.
Yeah.
It is improving. I could see the progress has taken place.
Yes.
It is improving. Perhaps before only one time, but now
Yes.
2 times, for
Yes.
example. But we had to target to 3, maybe 3.5 like Vietnam.
Yes.
But to do that, you need a lot of investment from the government.
The government.
Meaning that the public investment have
Yes.
to go into the irrigation.
Irrigation, at least
Yeah.
the main irrigation link, right?
That's right. And the way I see it, irrigation in Cambodia or production in Cambodia, the Mekong Delta in Cambodia is the focus. It's important. Because look at Vietnam.
Yeah.
The majority of production of rice in Vietnam is in Vietnam,
Delta.
Mekong Delta.
In the Delta, yeah.
Meaning what? Meaning there are water resources.
Yes.
It is cheap to produce. So we could all do the same.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So we had to learn from what happening in Vietnam. We could do also in Bat Dambong, Ban Tim, and so on and so forth. But the topography is not the same in the Mekong Delta. Mekong Delta meaning it is the water resources are available, and the land, as you know,
flat.
generally flat.
Yeah,
right.
flat, yeah.
So you make a canal.
Yes.
Yes. Canal.
It's easy.
It's easy.
Easy. Yeah.
For transportation,
Yes.
as well as for water management. So
But
it's about.
up north, right, in Bat Dambong, Tim, and Chai, what are the geographical landscape there?
The landscape over there is simple. It is a province along Tonle Sap. It is like our
Yes.
woks, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
cooking woks like
Yes,
this.
yeah, yeah.
So Tonle Sap is like this. So they have a
okay,
highland.
okay.
So the thing go up,
Yes,
up
yeah,
and down
yeah,
like
yeah,
this.
yeah. Okay. So water management is very crucial, but it's more the work of the government.
Sure.
Right. It's more the work of government. How about seed? How about fertilizer input, that sort of thing? You see the issue in there? Do we have enough seed to go for 1 million tons?
After that, it is, yes, it is, as we discussed earlier, it is the government and the private sector, meaning the farmer, also companies, so have to work together.
Yes, yes.
So we had to set the stage first.
Yes, yeah.
The first one is water. After water, I think the important thing is the farmer organizations.
Yes, that's
right?
important.
This is institution among farmers.
Yeah.
If not, if you go, you could not talk about input, you could not talk about
Yes.
finance, you could not talk about
No
anything.
critical mass. No critical mass.
If no critical mass.
Yeah.
It is very, very costly
Yes.
if you go to one by one individual
yes. Okay.
farmer.
So organizing the community is another key element that you think is important.
Yes, yes. And then after you organize this,
Yeah.
and then you go into the discussion, like you say, about the
okay.
seeds,
Yes,
about
yes,
the
yeah.
fertilizers,
Yeah,
right?
you're right.
About the credit and so on and so forth.
Yes.
So if you have institution in the farm
Yes,
level,
yeah.
the bank or the private sector could supply.
They work with the
work-
meso level
That's
right there,
that's
yeah,
right.
because it's hard for banks to go straight to the micro level.
Right.
It's almost logistically impossible. right?
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely, yeah.
All right, so I would say organizing community is important. Working with this institution so that they can help channel input, whether it's fertilizer, agriculture input, or financial input.
Sure, sure.
But moving now to the second stream, which is more, now you have the production, you move to the milling. My understanding that we have a good 10 or 12 big international size milling facility with good storage,
Sure.
with good sort of like a drying machine, everything. But there are, 300 or 400 other in the countryside that are not up to that
Sure,
level, right?
Sure, sure.
What's your view on our technology capacity?
Sure. I have a chance to look at the rice sector
Yes.
briefly.
Yeah.
In general, we have so many rice mills. As you mentioned, 100, maybe more than that, right?
Yeah.
But those are small scale, medium scale, big scales.
Yeah.
And then I have an opportunity to look at some of them. I think most of them are kind of response to our food security in the 80s.
Yes, yes, okay.
In the 80s,
Yeah.
right? In the 80s, early
So low
90s.
tech?
Low tech, just for feeding our stomach
Okay,
first,
okay.
right? So the first time, as I mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
now we had to think of something
Yes.
of quality.
Exactly.
Right? So only just recently, maybe 2009, 2010, that people, there's some opportunity.
So now it's more the model shifting, that moving from food security where anything just to get the rice,
Sure.
whatever quality doesn't matter, disaster, to feed the hungry, that sort of thing, now is over. Sure. Now we're moving to a phase of stability, market-driven, international market-driven, which demand higher quality.
Sure.
So it's a rethinking process also
yes.
of the businessman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The economic model has to change.
Yeah.
The production system has to change.
Yes.
Before, we just do that for our stomach,
yes.
food security, subsistence
yes.
kind of thing.
Farming, yes.
But now we have to link to the international market. They will ask you, like asking, okay, how many percent is broken?
Exactly.
5% or 10%
exactly.
or 25%?
Yeah.
Is it well polished?
Exactly.
So for that, you have to answer to those demands.
Yes.
If not, we could not sell. Basically,
yes.
simple
yeah.
like that.
So the norm is changing, the market is demanding a certain level, but so far I want to say that these 10 companies, these 10 rice milling, they're doing good though. Look, if we can export 60,000 tons last year and early this year to Europe, isn't it tantamount to say that our quality is acceptable, at least for this 10 milling facility?
I think in perspective.
Yeah.
If you look at things in perspective, a lot of things has been changed,
yes.
has been take place.
Yes.
So the private sector is respond to the government policies.
Yes.
If the private sector know that our government is serious about these rice policies,
yes.
they respond.
Yes.
I heard, for example, recently there is a lot of investment in a rice mill.
Yes.
So because they think there's opportunity there.
Yes.
For example, if the government are not committed
yes.
to look at the issue of export of market, international
yes.
market, for example.
Yes.
Like you and I went to the Philippines,
right.
to explore the potential.
Yeah.
If there's no such export demand,
yes.
maybe the private sector would not invest.
Exactly.
Now they see the potential that they could export
yes.
to that market,
yes.
so they could have the space to think, before money hidden somewhere in their drawer somewhere, now they put in investment.
Yeah. But Kalyan, I think you triggered something in my mind. You mentioned our trip to the Philippines, to where the Prime Minister has asked that we go to explore possibility to sell to the Philippines. You know, they've been here many times.
Yes.
Officially, unofficially, from Battambang, from Diminjay, from Garivong, they've been exploring
sure,
our country.
Sure.
They've been going to our port. But here again is, yes, we have touched the market, but are we competitive? That's the trick. And to my understanding, and we know that, we've been talking about that quite a lot of time, we're not competitive in the sense that the price at the paddy level in the field is cheaper. It's equivalent to about same thing as in Vietnam or Thailand.
Cheaper, yes.
Cheaper.
Yeah.
But then by the time we get to the port, we're more expensive. So two things I see, and I want your view on that also. One is that because logistically we are not competitive? Because to me, exporting jean or shirt in a container, it's okay because you can put 200,000-300,000 shirt or sweater in a container, right, at $20. So the value could be $300,000 or $400,000 per container. So the cost, they don't care whether $2,000 or $3,000 per container. But for a container of rice, you can put at most 24 tons, right? So at $500 tons, you barely have $12,000 or $13,000 of value per container.
Right.
And if the cost of exporting per container is $2,000 or $3,000, or say even $1,500, right? It's still not. It's still too expensive.
Sure.
So the point I'm trying to drive is that I believe, and probably, empirical study around the world could tell us that you do not export commodity by container.
Sure.
It's not.
Right.
It's not competitive.
Right.
So you have to look at other mode of integrated logistics, break bulk, right? You bring the barge, you pour the thing in, something like this. What's your view on logistics?
I think you touched the right point. This is very good.
Yeah.
Because you could summarize into those competitiveness.
Yes.
In economic terms, this is a point that we start to talk about.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, rice is commodities.
Yeah.
What does it mean? Commodities is mean that it's all the same.
Yeah.
It's all the same.
It's all the same.
We might say
fungible.
Fungible. We might say Niang this, Niang that, Niang Mali, Niang Ming,
whatever, right?
It's okay. But for foreigner, they just look at rice is rice.
Yeah. Aromatic rice, perfume rice.
That's right. That's right. And then they look at how many percent broken. So meaning that if it is 25 broken or 10% broken or 5% broken.
Yeah.
So therefore, what it means commodity, meaning that if it is even $1 cheaper or higher,
that's it. They go for that.
They
decide on that.
They decide on the price.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, although Philippine government has maybe some real intentions, as you mentioned rightly, to buy from us. Of course, they just set the stage.
Yeah.
And then they will ask us, what is the price, sir? And then we say that, okay, this and that. According to studies, our price is higher.
Yeah.
Some even mention to about between $70 to $90 per tons.
Yeah.
Our price is higher.
$70 to $90.
Yeah. So it's a lot of money there. Yeah. But some will say about 50. So it depends. In a case, it's more than $50.
It's more than 50.
More than 50.
My view, you mentioned this because, well, this is only my hypothesis. I cannot confirm that. But my feeling is that if we are to succeed, we have to be able to compete, right?
Absolutely.
So what I see is that because Vietnam doing business is much cheaper, Thailand doing business is much cheaper, or is that because the Cambodian in this case, who are the milling, the exporter, are taking too much profit from the value chain and therefore jacking up the price that now is not competitive?
Sure.
Or is that because the Vietnamese take less, the Thai take less, that's why they are $50 less? So to me, I'm always wondering to say, if the Cambodian farmer are to shift their thinking to say, I want to help the Cambodian miller by selling my paddy to the Cambodian rice miller versus selling to the neighbor Vietnam or Thailand, but will I get the right incentive? Will I get the right price, right? So here I like to say that perhaps, you know, the Cambodian business model have to also change.
Sure.
They have to say, I want to make less because I want to pass on my profit to the farmer.
Sure.
So if the farmer feel that I can make more money selling to an Oknya in Posat or Battambang, then they are not going to sell to a Thai trader or Vietnamese trader.
Sure, sure.
But the trick is, will that farmer get that extra dollar from that Cambodian Oknya?
Sure, sure. I think you touched the right point. But you summarized also in your early statement that the price called farm gate price, meaning at farm level, we are cheaper than the Thai and Vietnam.
Yes.
But at FOB price, on board of the ship, we are higher.
Yes.
So it is the gap in between.
Yes.
Between the farmer and the port.
Yes.
So it's very difficult to pinpoint where is the real exactly. But we could think broadly, what are the main issue? Main issue are, first of all, if you go follow the value chain, main issue are, number one, our technology is low.
Yes.
Okay, it's not organized and so on. Yeah.
Okay.
This is number one. And number two, our milling cost is expensive.
Yes.
Yeah. Why expensive?
Electricity.
Yeah, electricity is also financing and so on and so forth. And then you come to a third point about trade facilitation. Right? This is another thing that it might be take time, it might take more money than others, right?
Yeah.
And then also you touch on logistic thing.
Yes.
And logistic thing is a complex thing we need expert to look at. And as Cambodia, as a country, we have to be kind of smart to explore whatever potential that we could use. Right? So Sihanoukville is one place, but I heard that Sihanoukville, as you mentioned earlier, it could only handle container. If you're talking about 1 million tons, so many containers have to go up and down. So what is the impact on our infrastructure, right? Maybe in road number 4, you always have container on the road. So what is the impact? Will it destroy our road? And so those things we have to think about. And as you said rightly earlier, a general thing in the world is normally to transport by barge, meaning by sea, either rivers or
it's still the cheapest mode.
The cheapest mode. So we had to explore also either any potential possibility to explore Mekong River, right? Which is also cut across the middle of Cambodia. Why don't we use that? According to my understanding, we still don't have a barge port yet in the Mekong River. So we have a container in Phnom Penh 1, and the Chinese is helping another one in Kien Swai, which is also container.
But to me, this is where the beauty of this rice strategic review is that we should be able to look what does it take 4 years from now to achieve 1 million ton, and we work backward. What are the logistic system that we need to refurbish, to add, to improve, to inject new idea? What sort of banking system we need? Right. What sort of production facility? How many more rice milling we have? So that sort of thing is exciting, and I really look forward to see the outcome a couple months from now, to see what are the various recommendations. And I hope that this recommendation, the government will, the Prime Minister, like Prime Minister, will look at way to say, okay, let's give a big push politically, bureaucratically, to help the rice industry. But ourselves, how do we motivate the private sector to say, look, let's contribute by investing, our own money, our own cash into this rice system, so that 4 years down the road we could achieve 1 million ton. To me, if we achieve in 2015 1 million tons, you imagine it's over $1 billion that of money circulate that are going straight to the rice farming community, and therefore it affects dramatically the level of reducing the poverty. Absolutely. And that's something that we should aim for.
Absolutely,
yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So fortunately, we're coming to the end of our program. As always, it's quite short, Yeah. So I will have to say thank you again for coming. This time on a very interesting topic, rice. And you never know. There could be other things that we will meet again on a regular basis. Perhaps a few months down the road, as we start planning ASEAN chairmanship, Cambodia chairing ASEAN next year, we could talk a bit about the economic prospect of Cambodia in the ASEAN world.
Right.
So again, thank you very much, Bang Kalyan. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoy this quick conversation on rice. The topic is so broad, there is no way we could touch everything, but I like to bring more speakers to focus on different components of the rice value chain, and hopefully this program could stimulate the sector by introducing new idea, new way of thinking, and how do we help contribute, to the work of the government in achieving this 1 million tons of rice export per year. So once again, thank you for watching our show, and I'll see you next week. Good night.